everyone, it's Sarah from Mosman Library, and this year Science Week theme is Food, Different by Design. And this year we're being encouraged to examine food-based science. I don't know about you, but if you take flour, water and salt, the best thing you can make is bread. So let's look at some of the science behind sourdough. Essentially, sourdough is an experiment in fermentation. When you mix water with flour, the yeast and bacteria begin to feed on the sugars in the flour, and this creates those bubbles, that carbon dioxide which accumulates as a waste product of fermentation. Carbon dioxide then becomes trapped in the gluten-structured pockets in the bread, and that makes it rise. There are literally hundreds of recipes available to you on sourdough. And just because you can't come into the library, don't wait to get your baking started. You can use your library card to borrow ebooks and magazines from apps like Libby, like this one here. So head to the website, grab your library card and the app, and you can download some of these great resources to read. Whole grain flour like rye contains more microbes and enzymes needed to drive the fermentation. So I decided that I would try and make my starter using rye flour and some pineapple juice. There's lots of different things you can use. I heard some people suggest using grapes or even dried sultanas soaked in water. Of course, you could just use water as well. But here I'm using 15 grams of rye flour and 15 grams of pineapple juice and giving it a good old mix. And I'm going to feed my starter at the same time every day, this same proportion, 15 grams of pineapple juice and 15 grams of rye flour. After the first 3 days, I will start feeding it 50 grams of rye flour and 50 grams of water. Some fermentation going, those bubbles should make it rise. This is a time lapse that happened over about 4 hours, and as you can see with the rubber band placed at the top, I can see how much it's rising. But just in case I didn't get any fermentation, I also bought some starter from my local Mosman bakery. The staff there were really helpful, and they sold me about 100 grams for under $5. And so if you don't want to make your own starter but you want to make some sourdough, you could just purchase some starter and it's ready to bake with straight away. One of the other ways you know that your starter is ready to bake with is the float test. If it floats, you're ready to bake. So when we're ready to bake, we take our starter, our water, and our bread flour, which is higher in protein than normal bread flour, and we're going to mix them all up and make a dough. So I've got my pineapple starter here. I think there's about 80 grams, somewhere between 80 and 100 grams. Into that I'm adding 320 grams of water, and you've got to play around with the percentages yourself. Most people suggest about 70% water to flour ratio. So for me, I've got 500 grams of flour here and 10 grams of salt. Like a fork, I'm just going to mix it up till it resembles a shaggy dough. It's kind of fun, this bit. And then I'm going to let it sit. bit sticky at the moment. But yes, stretching and folding. And over the next 3 hours, I'll come back every hour and do a bit of a stretch and fold before it's ready to be shaped. I'm new to baking, so this is an experiment. I'm trying to stretch it out here. It's not an easy thing to do. Supposed to do at this stage is try and add some tension to the outside so that it holds its shape. Put it into my basket, lined with a clean cloth. And I'm going to sprinkle some rice flour in it. Rice flour does not have any gluten in it, so it's not going to stick. And then I'm going to put it in the fridge overnight so that it continues to ferment slowly. Creates steam, which stops the crust forming so quickly. So I actually did that as well. I put a little bit of water in the bottom when I was baking it. Score it with a knife. And this is actually my third loaf. I think the starter took a while to really get going. I think I got some pretty good bubbles in there. I was pretty happy with that. And of course, the best bit about Science Week food themes is tasting your experiments. So I hope you enjoyed watching that and that you go and have a lot of fun baking some sourdough bread yourself.